Awesome. When I first walked up to Gary, I remember very confidently saying, "Hi, my name's Pootie. I'm an atheist." And ever since then, I sat weekly at Wide Awake under his teaching, going to Bible studies with students discipled by him, where I learned how to read the Bible, and I heard the gospel over and over by friends sharing with me here at the BSM. And over a year later, after being extremely invested by friends of the BSM through dorm ministry at Lipscomb, late nights playing Capture the Flag, spontaneous prayer nights, meetings, and more, I came to know Jesus. I then joined leadership, and eventually I graduated and I joined staff, and here we are, 16 years later. My director, mentor, co-laborer, and dear friend, there's really no one who has played so many different influential roles in my life that I can confidently say I know Jesus better each year of my life because God has placed Gary in it. Many of you know Gary as the director of the BSM, now director of training for Texas BSM, a doctor after finishing his DMin, a disciplined marathon runner, a over 1,300-day streak and counting runner, strategic and detail-oriented, part of the ministry movement across DFW, engaging students at UTA and several TCC campuses, seeing students come to know Jesus weekly over the past decade. A host of the very popular Facebook show where you can ask any question and he will reply with an appropriately sincere or sarcastic response, Ask Gary. But as we celebrate Gary today and his 21 years deeply invested in the lives of the students at the BSM and beyond, I want us to also remember the things we don't typically add to a resume. A man who has sat tens of thousands of hours across students in his office, around campus, as well as his living room, coaching them on how to walk with God, break up with their boyfriends or girlfriends, how to hurry up and propose, or being first on call for repairs and perturbing news for 605 and 506 Center Street, aka the BSM guy's house and BSM girl's house, where Michael Reed and Matthew Lyline's cars were crushed by a giant tree. Possums decided to take residence when there was no one home. Years of Jar Wars videos were made, where Keith Beanland crawled under to remove a dead cat twice. Reed Benner asked me out on our first date. And where lots of parties, renovations, and collapsing toilet issues took place. Gary has seen many of us at our best. He's seen many of us top in our class, leading many people to Jesus, athletes excelling, to him officiating dozens of weddings, including ours and many of us here in this room, who met through eHarmony, the unofficial dating app known for its Nobel Prize-winning algorithm pairing two eligible BSM leaders together. Gary has also walked with us at our worst. He's seen many of us go through some of our hardest moments in college, failing tests, messing up, losing family members due to unforeseen deaths. Gary has spoken at our family's funerals. Gary celebrates us, the best of us, and he consistently stands by our side swiftly during some of the most challenging moments in our lives. If I could sum Gary up in just 4 words, they would be faithful, gracious, loyal, and patient. Because who would put up with the BSM guy's house for 14 years? Gary has heard it all, and he's seen it all, and there's no better director for 21 years that we get to celebrate than him. Gary, we love you and couldn't be more proud and thrilled to usher you into this new role of director in training for Texas BSM. Everyone, let's give it up for Gary. And so so we've also had a few guests travel from afar and nearby, and one of them got to be here since the beginning of Gary being on staff here at the BSM. And so many of you are here to see Gary, and many of you are also here to see our very own Christy Matthews. And so we've asked Christy to come up and just share a few encouraging words for Gary. So give it up for Christy Matthews.
That was beautiful, Pootie. I certainly do not want to. Do you want to hug, Pootie? Yeah. Well, last night I was at basketball practice for my son, and I was telling some of the mom friends that I was flying to Dallas to go to a party for my former boss, and they were like, "What? That must have been some boss." And I'm like, "You don't understand. World's best boss." I remember telling you that I was never going to work for anyone else except you, because I just love working for you so much. And I'm still not working for anyone. I think I told Josh, I can't get a job because I have to work for Gary. Yeah. I would love to. But yeah, I was just, I was telling Josh one of the reasons why I really wanted to be here today, and I traveled this morning to be here, was just because, Gary, you're like a brother to me. And, it's kind of the same as the guy's house. He was just there for me all the time doing plumbing. I remember you killed a mouse for me once. It's just always there for me. And I was telling my friends last night, he married Josh and I. And so Teresa and Gary, you guys are like family to me. And I'm just happy to be here to be able to see you, see everyone, and witness the transition to your new role. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Christy. And now I get to welcome someone who's known Gary he shared almost 30 years. And so that's amazing. So may you please welcome Bruce McGowan.
Well, hi, Dr. Wade. I wasn't going to share this, but I will. Gary went to Angelo State. And where did we meet, Bruce? Where did we meet? Well, Angelo State's boys' bathroom is smaller than this one. Now, for you girls that haven't been in the boys' bathroom, just trust me, it's pretty small. Well, I remember going into the boys' bathroom for various reasons, and one reason. And Gary said hello. I said, well, we did our introduction, and that's how I met Gary Stidham. I believe he had hair then. Yeah, I did. And it was almost 30 years ago. And I've been able to serve alongside him with the state office, and he is moving into a role that's a critical role for Texas Baptist in terms of Texas BSM. And I would need to say, one of the things about Gary is his family background. His mother and daddy live in O'Donnell. How many of y'all know where O'Donnell is? Well, very few people do. And I think Hoss Cartwright was born there. But you don't know. I know. That's right. Some do. But they were a strong influence and have been a strong influence on Gary all these years. I know other folks in O'Donnell that know the Stidhams. And one of the benefits of being old is that you can look back and you can see how God's hand has been in a person's life and in your own life, and the people that He's brought into your life. For instance, Christy was a person brought into Gary's life, into the BSM's life, that had a tremendous influence on how the BSM developed and grew, and she's just one of many that have been involved under Gary's leadership. And I would mention Teresa. You don't want to forget her. She was the backbone and is the backbone of everything that they've done, and to have somebody supportive like Teresa has been a real key to not just Gary's personal success, but also the success of the ministry and the influence that God has had on so many people. I'm thankful for my wife that she let me do the kind of things that had to be done in order to reach people, and it would have been very difficult if I wouldn't have had that kind of support. And Teresa's been that for Gary, and in her own right, talented, smart, intellectual, math whiz, and mother, and all the kind of different things you could say about Teresa. So we're grateful for her. One of the passages that I would share with you just briefly is out of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. We have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the power of God may be seen as not coming from us, but from God who works mightily within us. And Gary characteristically has been very unassuming, not real showy, not braggadocious, not got to be in the limelight. But because of that, the gospel has been seen in his life. And Jesus has shown in his life, and people have seen Jesus, not just Gary. And that's a real tribute to a life well lived over the 30 years that I've known Gary. And I would say to you, the direction of Texas BSM has been directly impacted by Gary. When I was state director 17 years, and it was often that we saw things at UTA that hey, this ought to happen other places. And what makes this happen here and maybe not other places? And I'm part-time now, and so I work with some directors, but it's really often that I say to them about some area of BSM work, you need to see what Gary Stidham's doing at UTA along with his staff, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what you need to do to be effective in student ministry. And a couple of other things. I would encourage you to pray for Gary as he moves into his new role. It really is a real shift from moving to a weekday ministry where you see people on a daily basis, the same people, and you get to meet with students regularly on the same group over a period of years. I remember when I left the local campus, I was meeting with 23 students a week. And then all of a sudden, I was doing paperwork and having to plan meetings and having to coordinate bigger things. And you can pray for him and Teresa, and particularly for him, that he would continue the passion to love God and to love people, and to commit himself, to give himself to the gospel ministry, and not become a bureaucrat. It's real easy to get into an institutional structure and become a bureaucrat. And it's not that you intentionally do that, but there's a real need for people to pray that Gary would find his sense of calling, that's a calling that he had here, there, that involves people and the gospel and the kingdom through Texas BSM. And that just doesn't happen overnight. And your prayers will make a big difference in how that happens, and that does. And it guards Gary's heart and keeps his heart focused on what's important and what isn't important. And frankly, you're the reason he kept his heart focused. Because meeting with you guys and girls on a regular basis just keeps you. You got to ask the Lord stuff, because you don't know how to answer, you don't know what to say, you don't know how to deal with things, and that daily contact really pushes you to grow and to walk with God closer. And that very same thing needs to happen in Gary's life in the new role that he's in. And I'll share with you in closing a passage. I think it maybe is a key to part of the success of what's happened here because of Gary and Teresa, and I'll close with this. 1 Thessalonians 2:8 says, having so fond an affection for you, we were well pleased to impart to you not only the gospel of God, but also our own lives, because you had become very dear to us. And I would say to you that the Stidhams have felt that way towards you all these years, and we're thankful for them.
I just want to say I heartily second everything that Pootie and Christy and Bruce have shared. It is, and if you don't know me, my name is Ben Muir. I've been on staff here for 7 years now, and will be stepping into the massive shoes that Gary is leaving behind. So I'm not going to talk long. A lot has been shared, but Gary, as I've been on staff here, worked with him. So I actually met Gary when I was a senior in high school. So this would have been like end of 2007. I came on this campus doing dual credit classes, and I think it was my mom who mentioned, she was like, hey, you should go to this thing, it's called the BSM, and I think they do something called Wide Awake, you should go. I said, okay, cool. And I went, and it's, the power of suggestion is a very strong thing, and it kind of put my life on a different trajectory than I had planned. I was just reminiscing with Christy about, I had a plan for my life at that point, and God really did I don't know if it was a 180, it was some matter of degrees, changed me, and the BSM was a big part of that. And so it's been a long time. I've been on this campus for 13 out of the last 15 years in various roles, whether as a student or a volunteer or a staff member. And as I've been on this campus and been around you, you've helped me know how to be a better leader. As someone who has led, multiple types of people. I don't know. I remember we added up how many people had been on staff over the years. Was it 40 plus, something along those lines? 53. Okay, we're at 53 now. Yeah, if we count Isaiah Kavanaugh. Can you count him? Okay, I guess so. But yeah, leading a lot of different kinds of people. You've helped me know how to be a better father and husband. And just getting to watch you, balance ministry and then life at home and those different responsibilities. It has been such a blessing in my life to be able to see that and to be able to think, all right, what do I want to take away from that and apply in my own life? So that, God has definitely used you in massive ways in my life, and I thank you for that. There's a passage that comes to mind, Colossians 1, 28 and 29. And I know I've heard Bruce talk about this passage as well, but I know that this one is very close to your heart. Paul says, He is the one we proclaim. Jesus is the one we proclaim, admonishing and teaching everyone with all wisdom, so that we may present everyone fully mature in Christ. And to this end, I strenuously contend with all the energy Christ so powerfully works in me. And I know we share that, the desire to spend our lives to see other people grow in the grace and the knowledge of Jesus Christ. And you have been an excellent example of that for many years. And I know we'll continue to be. Yeah, 'cause you're not going super far. So, yeah. So right now what we want to do, we've asked several people, mostly people that have worked with or for Gary, to record a short video. We're not going to show the complete videos of each of those, but we have just little snippets of each of those that we're going to play here in just a second. It'll just be a few minutes. And after that, as we've talked about, we're going to open up the floor. If anybody would like to share a brief memory, an encouragement, anything along those lines, that would be the time after that. So I'll introduce us into that time after the video. But be thinking if there's a brief memory or an encouragement or something that you would like to share, that'll be a great time afterwards. So why don't we go ahead and cue that video.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but I just wanted to say congrats on your
All right, I want to open up the floor, and here's how this is going to work. If anybody wants to share a brief memory, encouragement, anything along those lines, I'll ask you just raise your hand. We want to get a microphone to you just so everybody can hear. And so be thinking, and yeah, there's going to be silences in between while people are thinking, and it's okay, but let's just have a good time of sharing. So does anybody want to be the first one? Yes, Patricia.
Hey guys, I'm Patricia Herrera. I knew Gary back in 2006 as a freshman. I was Patty back then, so if you've heard the name Patty, that's me. I rebranded. Gary trusted me at first with being a leader here at the BSM, which changed my trajectory in college. And then he invited me to his house, and he's like, hey, why don't you come babysit my kids? And I was like, okay, great. I got free laundry, and I got to meet Teresa, his wonderful wife, and learn how a family functions, a godly family, and that was really great. And then he's like, hey, why don't you stay and be a campus missionary? And I was like, yes. And I got to work with him for a year, and that was amazing too, Gary. But what that set me up for was corporate America. It set me up for a life of ministry. When I went to my church, I was years ahead of a lot of people, and I'm so thankful that you took the time to show me what it looks like to gather people, to help them walk through the Bible, to help them come together in prayer, and just to do it organically was something that I've been able to recreate not only in a 9-to-5, but in my everyday life. I thank you so much for that. I pray that the next stage of life looks so great for you. We're praying for you. We love you, Gary.
Awesome. Who else? Alan's got it.
Yeah, I am Alan Barbie. I'm co-pastor of Southfield Christian Fellowship. Before Gary came here, Southfield Christian Fellowship had a very good relationship with the BSM and with Joel Bratcher. And so when Joel left and went to A&M and Gary came in to replace him, John Turner and Tim Davis and I did what we would always do with a fellow minister. We invited him to one of our pastor meetings, and otherwise people would label those meetings as breakfast. And so in those days, we were meeting at Main Street Cafe. So Gary came in and met with us and just shared his vision for BSM, and we got to know him a little bit. And after he left, John and Tim and I stayed and took care of some other ministerial business. But one of the things that John said that day, based on just that one meeting, was, there goes a leader of men. And with Gary would appreciate this with my West Texas sense of humor. I said, really? He's from O'Donnell, But it has proven to be true. And we're very grateful for our years of association with Gary and Teresa and the BSM.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Roy Yabuki. I'm with International Students Incorporated, and we started. I remember the first time we met. It was he was bringing ice for the Big Howdy for the first time, first Big Howdy. I called him up. He said, "We're doing this thing every year. The guys before you used to do this, and the BSM used to always bring drinks and ice and all that kind of stuff." And so I just remember him just serving selflessly, as Gary does, bringing this stuff in. And ever since then, we've kind of been on parallel paths, and just seeing how, my path's gone one way. The path of Gary, it's neat to see how he develops people. And, you all are testimony to that. And, from beginning to, leadership, Pudi said something, lost to something. It's just a amazing thing to watch. And so for him to be able to go into this next step and share the next generation with the next generation, it's fun. Though I do miss us having those theological conversations also, but maybe we can start doing more. But anyway, thank you, Gary, for your service here for all these years.
Rachel, and I was somebody who was a off-campus senior in graduate school, and so I didn't get to be here as often as everybody else was. But what I loved about being here is every time I was interacting with Gary and staff and being at the BSM, it always felt like home. And so it felt like, even though I was here once or twice a week, it just felt like such a safe space to be in the middle of a social work program that was really rigorous and just some hard spaces about that. And just really got excited when I heard that Gary was going to be in this new role. I thought, I can't think of a better person for that job. So super thankful for him and the way that he gathered those of us who were even off campus and really blessed us. So thank you, Gary.
Hello. Hey. It's me, Shauna. Oh wait. Ugh. When I came to college, Gary, you remember when I came to college, and I just remember thinking I did not look at myself as a leader necessarily. I didn't really have much of a direction as a Christian with little discipleship, I would say. And you were just really, I think, gentle with looking at me as a freshman, thinking that I was like confident in my faith. And I don't know, there were a lot of things that I think you could have pointed out as saying like, hey, what you're saying is kind of wrong, or that book that you're reading is really dumb. But you were always just really gentle and kind of redirecting how I viewed scripture, or how I viewed God. And I always appreciated that. And because of you and because of BSM, like, I discovered just leadership abilities in myself that I didn't know I had, and that's been amazing. And met Ben here, and you helped us speed up that process of getting married. I'm just really grateful for you and grateful for the years of being a student and then coworker and now just friends with you and Teresa, and it's such a sweet friendship that I cherish. Mm-hmm.
I forgot I was going to share a memory. So we traveled to India together. I guess that was like end of 10 into 2011, something like that, December into January. It was us two and then two other students, so just four of us, small group. Our sleeping arrangements for the week was we had a hotel room with one bed in it. I don't know if it was a queen. I think it's more like smaller than a queen.
I think it was smaller than a regular.
I think it was a very small bed. That was it. Yeah, a little bigger than a twin. Yeah, I don't know. It's very small. So that's some context. And so, Gary, then he did our wedding, and it was like 4 days, I think, into marriage, and he texts both of us, and he says, hey, Shauna, I've still slept in a bed more nights with your husband than you have. And it was very odd and so sweet, and yeah. It's very Gary. So anyway. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Honestly, we didn't like to admit it, but it was probably better that way. It was very cold. Who's next?
So my name is Kobe Lloyd. I'm a younger BSM student compared to everybody else, but Gary, I just want to say I'm just really, really thankful for you, just how you've welcomed me and as a transfer student, being a new student here, and just really wanting to desire to grow my faith. You've been a wonderful example on just that simple, humble obedience that's just influenced me so much in how I do ministry here. I think this next row, I think you'll do a great job. I'll be praying for you, and I love you. Thank you for all that you've done. Yeah.
Peter's gonna talk next. Just kidding, Gary. Turn around. He really might. There is no skill that I've used more as an adult Christian than learning to share the truth in love with nuance. And there's no one I've learned that more from than you. And so I just really appreciated in college, you and I were very much on the same wavelength of like everyone's joking around. And then I'd ask a very serious theological question. And you would give me a very serious answer. And everyone else would be like, all right, we're going to leave now. But then you would share with me all sides of an issue without giving me your perspective until the end. And that is something that I've really learned to value. Because now I can do that because I learned that from you. But I've seen many of my friends and my coworkers take steps in their faith closer to the Lord, or steps towards faith in the Lord, because I've been able to tell them honestly just like who I am and what I believe, without making it seem like it's all my thoughts, and making it clear that it's really what the Lord thinks. And I've really learned that a lot from you in college. And so I'm grateful that you set that example. And I want you to know, like, college ministry is important. And we've seen so many students come to faith here, but like at Texas Health Bedford in the labor and delivery unit, like people have taken their next steps towards faith too. So.
I may be the oldest person here. I'm Charles Wade, and for 23 years, I pastored the church right across the catty corner, First Baptist, where Dennis Wiles, who had a word for us earlier, is now pastor. They let me be pastor emeritus, which means I'm a has-been. But I am awfully glad to be here today. Gary has become really special to me in these last few years because of his great leadership in this work, but also his churchmanship. You know, some people know how to help a church be greater than it would be otherwise. Other people just kind of take it for granted and float along, but leadership causes you to stand up at particular moments along the way and say the truth and help leaders be successful. And I've watched Gary and Teresa in that role, and I'm very grateful. After I left First Baptist Church in 1999, I went to work with Texas Baptist. And all over this state, there are more than 5,000 churches that give money every week through their offerings into what we call the cooperative program. And we share those monies. We put them all in a pool, and then we have people who are elected to help decide where those monies go. Tom was BSM director when I went to work for Texas Baptist, and then Bruce came to be the BSM leader for the whole state. And I had the responsibility of helping to recommend how those monies would be spent. Texas Baptist churches support and encourage 10 higher education schools. Hardin-Simmons, Wayland, Howard Payne, maybe you've heard of them, East Texas Baptist, Dallas Baptist, Houston, they now call themselves Houston Christian, Mary Hardin Baylor, BUA, which is a school in San Antonio, San Marcos Baptist Academy. I hope I haven't left out. When I did this job, I was always afraid I'd forget one and they'd all rise up. But what I'm saying that to say is in those years, we had tough decisions to make about where the money would go. And we didn't always have as much money as we would have liked to have had, just like your churches. But the one program that we never reduced was Texas Baptist Student Ministries. I don't know what it is now, but it was up over $4 million a year that we gave, the churches made possible, so that not only were these Baptist schools out there, but every Texas Baptist University college would have a Baptist student ministry going on. Now, Bruce said that he's often referred to Gary and said to other BSM people, watch what Gary's doing. This school has had great leadership. Before you, who did you say was here? Tom? Joel, and he went to A&M, and he's done a great job there. But young people, well, some of you are a little older than young people now, but you can't imagine, I've been sitting here this whole time, you can't imagine what a blessing you are to me. And all the resources and all the work that Bruce has done and others who've led Texas Baptists across the years, Texas Baptist Ministries, it's been worth every dime because of what's happened in your lives and what you have done as you have gone on to serve God all over the world. So I'm just one guy who's had a part in seeing this kind of thing happen. I would say I married a girl that the BSM was critical in her life in Oklahoma, Southeastern State University. Made her a better wife. I couldn't have been more blessed. And I'm grateful for all of you, Gary, you and Teresa, especially grateful for you. God bless you.
Hey, I'll step over here so everyone doesn't have to like break their neck. I'll step over here so you don't have to. No, I don't need to be on the stage. But I did just think of a couple things that I did want to share. So I worked with Gary for 6 years, and we worked together, we ran together, I've stayed at their house, had dinner lots of times, and I left 2 years ago and am managing a dental office. I have had multiple people tell me that I'm the world's best boss. And I always think it's because I worked for Gary for 6 years, because he taught me how to be a really good boss and to care for people and to hold people to high standards and to be gracious. And so for that, I am extremely thankful. And all the people I manage are extremely thankful too. And then the second thing that just came to mind as people were sharing, I remember one specific day, I think it was my second year working here, I came to Gary in his office and I said, Gary, I need you to keep a secret. Please don't tell anybody. You can't tell anyone. And he said, well, I'm going to tell Teresa. And I'm sure he thought I had done something terrible. And I said, will you help me run a marathon? And I came to him, I think 6 months in advance, and I said that I wanted to run a marathon, and you didn't tell anybody, but you coached me through the process and gave me running magazines and sent me running articles and told me what I needed to do and cheered me on, and Teresa did as well. And then I got to run my first marathon. So, been cheering for so many of us for years and years, and we're so grateful.
Hello. I'm going to stay seated. But a verse that came to mind when I was thinking about you is someone somewhere once said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And I think that suits you extremely well. And just the way that you lead, the way that you represent Christ and the way that you model him. So every student that's come through here can look at you and imitate something that you do and be more like Christ because of it. And I can think of just so many times where I've like come into your office where like I have no idea what's going on. It's like, Gary, help, you know. And you're always so good at listening to me and like really parsing things out and making things simple and straightforward. I'm like, oh, I guess it's not as complicated as I was making it. And it's just been such an encouragement to be able to learn under you, be discipled by you, and just serve with you, and just the opportunities that you've given me to help me grow into the gifts that the Lord has given me as well, and just the way that you've fostered my growth. And just something that I was thinking was funny about, well, I just remember like with my Bible studies that I would lead, is we just had a funny interaction because you kept telling me to keep it to an hour. You kept telling me that I needed to stop going over time, but I feel like each year I led a Bible study. We just went like, we added another hour. So it's like 2 hours and then like a 3 hour. And you kept being like, no, you got to respect people's time, rein it back. I don't know. I think the Holy Spirit just took over. But
Imagine if you had kept it to an hour, what he could have done.
I received that. I received that rebuke. Because you're right. It is important to respect people's time as well. But yeah, it was just, love you, Gary. I'm so thankful for you.
Hi, I'm Sarah. So I started out with the BSM actually through TCC ministry. And so, right, what? So even though I had a lot of friends who came to the BSM, I started out through TCC and then finally trickled into UTA and on campus. And I just, thank you so much for your passion for the community colleges too. That's one thing that I've loved, and I got to serve as a CMI and to do TCC ministry. But I never once thought about being a CMI, and then all of a sudden I was approached and was like, hey, I think you'd be really great for this. And so I just want to say thank you for that as well, because I was just kind of going on with my life and was like, yeah, ministry's cool. Like, I've been a part of it my whole life. But thank you for that, because it really helped me grow in confidence, and helped me learn how to approach people. I also thank you for just your being so genuine and authentic, and I've always felt like I could talk to you about anything. And I'm also a very straightforward person, so I didn't have to beat around the bush whenever I needed to talk to you. But Gary's just always been an influence in my life ever since coming to the BSM. And you're someone who I've looked up to with ministry, even past my dad, and just having you there as well. But also, if you didn't know how savage Gary is, let me tell you. And I bring this story up quite a bit, actually. So it was after one of our staff trainings or whatever, and we ended up at Brahms. And it happened to be at Brahms that my grandmother was on a date. Yes. And she was sharing a milkshake with her boyfriend, and Gary just looked at me and said, wow, your grandmother has more game than you, Sarah. So, in case you've never seen that side of Gary, it's there. So, love you, Gary.
Oh gosh, I don't think I can follow that up. So hi, I'm Patience Wilkerson, and I came to the BSM, like many of y'all, because a friend had told me about it. But it hadn't just been a single friend, it had been so many friends. I was a student at TCC and had been involved with another ministry and had heard about the BSM all throughout high school, actually, because I was part of a Christian dance company. But I wasn't going to UTA. I was going to go to TCC, get my associates, and then I was going to Baylor. So I wasn't involved with the BSM at all when I was at TCC because I lived in Fort Worth and that sort of stuff. But then life kind of happened and I got really sick and I wasn't able to go to Baylor anymore because of financial and health reasons. So instead of getting to follow kind of the plan that had been pretty well laid out for me, I was in the middle of a little bit of a health crisis, a little bit of a faith crisis, a lot of crisis in general. But I knew where I was going to go to school instead of Baylor, and it was UTA, because I had heard about the BSM, and I knew that I had a great faith community already there waiting for me, that I could come to on a weekly basis and be like, guys, this is really, really hard. Or just sit there and worship the Lord in the middle of a lot of difficulties and hear fantastic teaching and be encouraged. And then I met Gary, and I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Why? This is such a great place. And I know that it isn't always his direct, Gary has this great story or this personal connection with you, but through his relationships with these leaders, he has touched so many lives. And that was how I essentially came to know Gary, through his pouring into other students and their connecting and saying, you know, I was talking to Gary and he was saying these things and it made a lot of sense. And so I'm really grateful for your influence on my life, because it hasn't just impacted that short season of college. It's impacted how I serve as a church member, how I've led in corporate, and it's had a huge impact on my marriage and how I encourage my spouse in their ministry. We have so many conversations over what the Lord is doing in our lives, and then we will talk about input that you have given him and me, and we're just grateful for you and Teresa and y'all's ministry, as it's an encouragement and a testament to what the Lord can do. So thank y'all, and we're grateful for y'all.
Hey everybody. Am I too close to the speakers? Oh my gosh. Dude, I've been over there tearing up and really nervous because I'm really overwhelmed about how many memories we have together. And I don't know what to share. So I was thinking about, what's the most important thing that I could share? And a scripture that came up in my head. I've been to O'Donnell, and I damaged property at his parents' house as well. So, but there's thousands of memories from the time I was 19, and I'm almost 30 now, and just how you have played such a massive role in my life. And anyway, I thought through all those things, and I thought, what's the most important thing? And so I just want to jump into the middle of Ephesians 3 and just share a couple verses. And it says, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. And so, Gary, I just want to tell you that God has used you to show me and countless other students how great he is. And I am eternally grateful for you, brother. Love you, man.
Let me give him a hug. I know. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Yeah, I'm Shepard. If you don't know me, but I started BSM way back in 2014. I was going to early college at Richmond Collegiate High School. Then I came over here and I found the wonderful world of BSM, according to Gary. And Gary, from that day that I met him, he has been a positive influence in my life. He has been directing me to love Christ more, to be a better ambassador for Christ. And even to this day, whenever I'm going through some hard situations or I'm helping somebody, giving counseling, I find myself quoting Gary. Some Gary one-liners. I'm like, that's some really good wisdom. This person could use that. Or I could really use this right now. And Gary said this before. So I have never forgotten you, Gary. I will never forget you. I love you, man. You are very impactful in my life, and you continue to be so. And I just can't wait to see what God has to do for in your life as you go on to higher things. Thank you.
I just have a funny story that I want to share. So A little bit after Eliza. Oh, I'm Jenna. Oh, I'm a CMI here. Okay. Anyways, right after Eliza and I first moved into the girls' house, we sort of kind of secretly got a cat for like a week. And then we felt really bad. We were like, we should probably tell Gary. So we did. But the way we did it was we got this photo. It wasn't even staged, but his name's Toulouse, our cat. He was sitting on top of the Bible, and he was reading the Bible. So we were like, we didn't have to stage that photo. Like, Gary's got to let us keep this cat after this cat's reading the Bible. And it was like, I think after a vertical, we were like, so Gary, we got a cat. And he's like, oh, yeah? And we're like, but he reads the Bible, so it's okay. We showed him the picture. He was like, you can keep the cat. And then a couple months later, we got another cat. We got another secret cat. But that one, we accidentally told Timbrel, so she was like, you better tell him by Friday or I'll tell him by Friday. So we told him a lot sooner the second time. And this cat only has 3 legs. And so eventually Gary was like, you can have one cat with 4 legs. No more than one cat that has 4 legs. We were like, so can we keep the 3-legged cat? And they just kind of walked away. So we have 2 cats. So, yeah, that's my story.
Hey, I'm Stu, as everybody just shouted out. I was a former student at the BSM. I never worked with Gary as a coworker, but he had such an impact on my life. Gary, like ever since I walked into the door, and kind of like someone had said earlier, I think Patience had mentioned that, I was like, man, this place is really great. And you weren't. My first night here was a summer vertical way back in 2018, and I met a lot of people here. I didn't meet you that day. But I was like, this environment is just so welcoming, and I didn't know anybody at UTA, and so just looking for community, especially as like a fresh believer, I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is like exactly what I needed. That's crazy that God does that. And so it was like, wow, like who kind of runs this thing? And just seeing like Mr. Clean over there, it was like incredible just to see like this guy who was so humble and so just like submitting to the Lord like each and every day. I'm sure there were days where you're like, bro, I don't want to wake up. I don't want to go to work or whatever, but you sacrifice, and you've done this all the time for 20 years, right? Which is longer than some of the current students have been alive, which is like crazy. And man, like you've just had such a spiritual like positive impact on me, and like when like I had considered actually, like I know Connor had talked to me about like getting baptized even many years after I had come to faith, I was like, there hasn't been like another man in my life that has had this much of a spiritual impact on me as you have. So like I was like, it was a no-brainer to be like, Gary, can you baptize me? And you were like, oh, absolutely, it would be my pleasure. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna hold me under a little too long, I don't know. I was kind of like, you were really eager about that, but it was great. And just you've had such a tremendous impact on me and just so many people in my life. So thank you, Gary.
My name's Bill No. I work in the state office with Texas BSM. I'm a little afraid to maybe confess that I might have something to do with calling him to take this new role, so don't throw any tomatoes. But in reality, if you know Gary, you won't be surprised to find out that really more how that went is Gary showed up with a very detailed and thorough one-pager on what he would do in this new role and why he would be a good fit, and really kind of told us what he was going to be doing in this new role. So we were thrilled, and he kind of made it to where we couldn't say no, because we knew that this was such an obvious next step for him, as he will be really pouring into leaders across the state. And if I could take my Texas BSM hat off for a second, before I came to work with Texas BSM, I was at Lifeway working with BSMs all over the country, and everything that you all have said about the impact that he's made here and the influence he's had across the state is really true for across the nation as well. And Gary has been a leader who has been seen and noticed as a a practitioner who's led evangelistic momentum and helped create culture for reaching college students in a way that a lot of other leaders have noticed and learned from. So Gary, thanks for impacting so many, not just here at UTA, but really across the country.
I don't have much, and I'll probably lose my words halfway through, but I just wanted to say that the BSM has blessed me so much. Just walking in and seeing the community that's been built here, as he said just a second ago, the culture of reaching people for Christ, that was very impactful and very attractive. And then every Tuesday and every Friday, you preaching the Word of God, having impactful messages that are timely and culturally sensitive. It was very impactful. And then you're helping myself and Hannah Beth go through premarital counseling, just starting off on a very strong foot. We're grateful to you, and we know that you'll do wonderful things and be a wonderful mentor in your next role.
Hey, Gary. I'm Ashley. I met Gary the same year that Ben started on staff at the BSM, 2016. And I wasn't a Christian when I was getting ready to start college, and I accepted Christ because of a connection meeting I had with a staff member at the BSM. And then I felt like it was really embarrassing to be a new Christian and hang out with all these existing Christians. I was like, they can't know that I'm new at this. I have to act like I know what I'm doing. And so I went to every vertical. I'm sorry, Jason. You're all right. I went to every vertical. I went to every noon days. I was at everything. And then I was sitting with Jacqueline one day, and she was like, she was really sad about something. And I was like, hey, I wouldn't be a Christian if we hadn't met. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, I wasn't a believer when we met and had our meeting. And she was like, you have to go tell Gary. We have to go tell Gary this. I didn't know you were a new believer. And so we went and found Gary, and I told him, and he was like, this is amazing. We should have celebrated this. Why didn't you tell anybody? And he made me feel like it was okay that I was a new believer, because it was. It's awesome. And so he was just so encouraging, from the beginning, but especially from that point on, he encouraged me to do leadership team, get way too involved in noon days, and just, I feel like that's really translated into who I've become as a person. And so I'm really grateful for not only you, but all of the staff members that you have led for me and for, I guess, everybody in this room. Gary, we love you.
Hey guys, I'm Steve, and I met Gary a few days before I started college when I was touring the campus and looking at my schedule with some friends, and we just barged into the BSM building because my sister is already a student at UTA and told me about it. And Gary and Kyle were just so welcoming right away. Even though the BSM was closed, they still opened it to say hi to us and get to know us, and it wasn't a simple, what's your name? Okay, get out of here. He actually started a conversation with us and drew us in. And then I got the opportunity to be discipled by Gary with a few other young men, students at the BSM. And the conversations we had with Gary in those tight, 1-on-3 meetings were some of the deepest growth I've ever got in my life, going over real issues, a lot of divisions within the church and church history. And then at impact trainings throughout my time as a student, Gary and some of the other leaders that he's invited to speak have strengthened my faith and taught me so many different things about church history and how to approach people where they're at. Gary's actually the most understanding person I've ever met in my entire life, where any new person that he starts a conversation with, he can meet them exactly where they're at and build off of there. And he knows the time of when to make jokes and have fun, and also when someone wants to be on a serious level, and he could snap like that, going from one person to the next, meeting them exactly where they're at in their lives, and just being able to connect with people. And I'm so thankful for you, Gary.
Hi, I'm Michael, and hey, sorry we wandered in a little late, game day traffic, but that's the one of them, one of the guys whose car the tree, yeah, that's me. I met Gary, I transferred here from SHSU, and I had been real involved at another campus ministry where like they had their leadership team go through a semester-long class, and it felt like kind of an intro seminary kind of class. It was very specific to that ministry. And I remember I met Gary. I beelined for the BSM booth because I had heard great things when I transferred here. And I probably came on a little strong. I was like, hey, I did this leadership training. I want to get involved. I want to help out. I like doing worship stuff. And Gary was like, squinting his eyes, okay. Yeah, maybe come to a Bible study, and what was your name? And like he was, I felt like I freaked him out a little bit, and but showed up. It was amazing, and immediately got plugged in. Met Kyle. Is Kyle still here? Believe it or not, he stole the verse I was wanting to share, but it's okay. It's fine. So I don't have much more to share. But Gary, I'm excited for the day that you die. Stay with me, folks. Because I imagine that when you are called up into glory, that I hope that you get to see the incredible impact that you've had, and just the collateral impact that you've had through generations and through different people's lives being shaped and pointed towards Christ, and starting with your faithfulness to people who needed to hear the love of Christ. So thank you so much for your ministry here, the way you've ministered to me and so many others. It's incredible.
Got time for one more? Joseph? Annie, you want to take it to Joseph?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph, and Gary, the first thing that came in my mind when Ben sent the email was, what is it that really stand out to me when I see Gary was he boasts in the Lord. Every time, I don't use Facebook a lot, but I see whenever he speak, whenever he talked about stuff, and when he shared in his ministry, is the first thing he does is he boasts in the Lord, nothing less. And I'm truly blessed for you that Lord had put you in my life. As an international student, when I was here, I think I didn't know about the cultural differences that I had. And Gary introduced me to this whole new people, and then I was able to meet, and then he invited me to live in a BSM house. I think that was kind of a life-changing for me. So that was the place that I was introduced more into the theology and more into friendship that I was able to create and still have an impact in my life through those people. Keith, Carson, Jacob, these people are amazing people. I really miss them. They are not here. I thought I would be seeing them. And also one thing, when I'm in a small Nepali community group, which we call Nepali speaking Christian professionals and students, and we didn't have a place here in Arlington where we can do that and where we can have a meeting. And so the first thing that came in my mind is Gary's open to it. So I talked with him, and then he opened BSM building for that event. And I thank you for that. And they are also the friends that I invited them here. They were truly thankful for that one. The leadership that you have, the impact that you have made in the student ministry has really encouraged me in the past, and it's still, when I talk with people, how we used to go for apartment to apartment for the gospel sharing. And when I passed through those buildings, I still remember we used to go in those buildings for evangelism on Thursday night as a international friendship night. That was when during Thursdays, and I'm glad that that is still going on. So, yeah, you have made an immense impact on international people, not just as a pastor or something, but as a friend and as a good leader. And we're truly thankful for that. Thank you, Gary.
I got one more. So, hey, I'm Garrett. I was involved here back in 2010-ish through 2013. Was a janitor here along with my siblings. Trent's over there. It was our family business just kind of came through here. So, but I really wasn't planning on coming to UTA. It's Arlington, and was from Weatherford. Kind of wanted to get out there. Trent was coming to UTA already. And I was like, I want to kind of go off and do my own thing. Then he invited me to the BSM and to a worship night, and I just fell in love. And I was like, this is amazing. Like the passion behind it, the leadership, the way that all the students are connecting together and with God. I was like, I can't imagine going anywhere else. And so literally, this is why I came to UTA. And whenever I was here, got really plugged in, lived in Braz's house, rest in peace. But just loved it, loved the time here. Really what stuck out to me was Gary's leadership, and especially being able to really disciple and kind of multiply disciples was just amazing to see. Lots of mentoring. Ben was one of my mentors. Nate Phillips was one of my mentors. And just being able to really take all the, not just Gary. Like Gary's a great leader, but he built up so many leaders around him that really impacted my life. And so evangelism being one of the key things for me, being able to lead small groups. We lead, my wife and I, who's not here today, but we lead young adult college groups at our house for 121 Community Church now. And it's just a blast to be able to see that. And we're both really passionate about community, largely because of how the BSM impacted me, and then my wife also knowing how that really kind of hurt not having that community in college. And so something we're really passionate about, and just thankful for Gary and his ministry and kind of hosting that here. But I wanted the opportunity to get to thank you. So, and thank you for my whole family. My mom even said to make sure to tell you thank you. So.
Well, in the interest of respecting people's time, Elijah, should we go a couple more hours maybe? What do you think? Yeah, we just keep this rolling? Yes, I will hand it over to you. And I was just thinking Garrett's story, of coming to UTA because of this place. I've often thought that we should get a cut from the university. I mean, retention's the name of the game in higher ed. I mean, we need to figure out, that was my style. This is a big reason why I came to UTA. So anyway, we'll work on that. All right, ministry funding for ministry. Seriously, thank you to everyone who did share. We'd love to, I know there were many who wanted to be here who expressed that they couldn't. But if you'd like to share a few words, Gary, we'd love to hear from you. Y'all give it up.
Awesome. Yeah, if we could get a cut from all the people who came to school and a cut from all the weddings that came out of this building. Y'all know how uncomfortable all of this is for me, right? This is not what I would have picked for myself, but I am blown away and honored. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to tell a story about every one of you in the room, one by one. No, not really. But I'm so honored that y'all would come and see me off this way. I'm not leaving BSM. I'm still part of BSM, just in a slightly different role. I still get to be the interns' bosses, so I'm still your boss, Jenna. You still need to ask me about the cat. But a few memories, a couple things that I'll share. When I came 2003, we had one kid that was a baby, who's now a college student, had another kid who's now a college student. And so I've always wanted to give my life to college ministry. For the last 20 years, I want to give my life to college ministry, but the appreciation for what we do it's more nuanced now that my kids are in school. It's even more of a sacred trust. And so I think Ben's going to realize this as his kids get older, is that these students are somebody's kids. So when we came in 2003, I had no idea what I was doing. I was clueless, and the Lord saw fit in His providence to give me a partner, Christy, who had been in collegiate ministry as a student, a great student leader in a great ministry in Lubbock at Texas Tech, was studying at seminary at Southwestern, and so I think Bruce actually kind of made a love connection, gave us phone numbers, and we had a cup of coffee had a cup of coffee at the Barnes & Noble that's now a Chinese buffet up on I-30, I think, and said, we want to try to figure this out together. And so Christy came on staff and was my partner from the ground up for 11 years. And so Christy moved on to be a mom 9 years ago, but I still feel like I got to call Christy on the phone and say, I want to change this thing that we did for like the last 15 years that you came up with. What do you think? And so thank you for being an incredible right hand. Not long after Christy came on, we cycled through a couple of ministry assistants. Teresa and I always had a desire to be partners in ministry. And she said, well, kids are going to do Mother's Day out. I could do the books for her. She was a retired accountant. I don't know if you knew that. She did corporate accounting, went to be a stay-at-home mom, and we needed somebody who could keep the books at BSM. And she said, I could do that a few hours a week. So she came on a few hours a week. 15 years later, is still on our team. And so a partner, a helper in every sense of the word. For 15 years, we've worked on staff together. And so I think most of the things they said about me, they'd say about you as well. Thank you, sweetheart. Libby was on the video. Libby was our third staff member we added. We call her the original intern. But over time, God led us through, in fact, some of Bruce's innovation in our system, let us build a team and let us add staff members and reach more of this campus. But I didn't know I was going to say anything. So Ben had me come at the last Tuesday night of the semester. It was my last vertical. Some of y'all call it wide awake, but we call it vertical now. It's the last one I would get to go to as a staff member. And normally we interview a student, have a testimony. He said, how about we interview you? And I said, oh, sure, why not? And he said, what's your greatest memory? What's the thing that you feel like is most significant? And what came to my head was starting with Jesus. There was this unbroken chain of people. Jesus passed his life off to 12 men who passed the life that Christ gave them, the faith he gave them, the witness of the Holy Spirit, and he passed that off to people. He passed that off to people. And when I came, there was a small core group. A couple of y'all were in that core group in 2003. The Ogunlays, I think, had to leave already. They were part of that original team in 2003. And they passed their life off to students who'd passed their life off to students who'd passed. And some of y'all, this room was full of students on Tuesday night, and a good number of them met Jesus on this campus. And it's because your fingerprints were on people whose fingerprints were on people who are on those students right now. So anything that has happened here in the last 20 years has been because you have been faithful and because God has been faithful. John, I think it's 3 John 4. There's not a chapter number because it's only one chapter. 3 John 4 said, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. So thank you for giving me joy today. I'm really honored. So thanks.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up our time by doing something that might be a little crazy, but we're going to do a group picture. And we're going to do it here, facing that way. And so if we could all rise to our feet and crowd in like we love each other and face that way. Joseph's going to be at the back there. We can even maybe put up these first couple of rows of chairs. If you're you know who you are, get in the back. And you know who you are, get in the front, too.
Oh, thank you. I was like, you were ready for last week, all of a sudden this week.
Good to see you. Man, I'm glad you came. Yeah. All right. All righty, get on up there, everybody. Filter in. Yeah, good. Squeeze in on the stage and then spill out onto the floor. Hey, Joseph. Like between the speakers, is that okay? Or like or thinner? On the front row somewhere. Yeah. I think even further in the front. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Just use your phone. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. It'll be better probably. All right. Let's see. We can probably have if we can have a row on front that crouches down. Yeah. There you go. You can sit in the front floor. Here, how about go next to Elizabeth? Okay. If you get up high, are the chairs fine? Probably need to move them a little bit. Let's move these chairs back. Yeah, thank you. We'll just move these back a little bit. Oh, that's looking good. Is that better? All right, how we doing? Is that good? Okay. All right, everybody follow Joseph's directions. Did we get it? Excellent. Hey, thank you so much again to everybody. That concludes our time today. We appreciate every one of you coming out. Get some snacks, hang out. We're done though.